These Chinese students were raised to dream big. But last summer, something strange happened. Graduates in caps and gowns collapsed on sidewalks and sprawled on staircases. They called it zombie-style graduation. It's a haunting snapshot. A snapshot of a generation that studied, struggled, and sacrificed, only to face a system that no longer works. Yes, in China today, 1 in 6 young people can't find a job. And even those who do find work are trapped in the brutal rhythm of the 996, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., 6 days a week. But China's Gen Z is revolting against this system. They're walking away from careers, from ambition, from the dream that was never really theirs. And in this video, we'll uncover the real reasons why Gen Z in China is lying flat. But we need to first understand the rise of 996 culture. China's doors swung open during the late 1970s. After decades of strict central planning and poverty, Deng Xiaoping's reforms launched a new era, one fueled by capitalism, competition, and survival. But for this rapid progress, hard work was needed. And from that soil, the 996 culture was born. As evident from the name 996, it starts at 9 a.m., it ends at 9 p.m., 6 days a week. That's 72 hours every week. Along with strong economic policies between 1980 and 2020, China's GDP grew at an astonishing average of over 9% a year. In a feat unparalleled in human history, the nation lifted nearly 800 million people out of extreme poverty. The technological boom was blinding, but this miracle had a dark side. The 72-hour work week became a crucible that forged a new generation, but broke many within it. The cost was counted in shattered health, dissolved families, and a gnawing emptiness. A 2013 survey revealed that a staggering 98.8% of China's IT industry workers reported health problems. The phenomenon of death from overwork morphed from a rare tragedy into a recognized social issue. But as the transition happened from one generation to another, China faced its biggest corporate revolt. Raised on Wi-Fi and WeChat, Gen Z is a generation unlike any other. They are fluent in memes and allergic to meaningless hustle. Around the world, their peers questioned the 9-to-5 and championed the soft life. But in China, the expectations were different, higher, harder, louder. Get the degree, get the job, grind until you succeed. Ambition wasn't just encouraged, it was mandatory. You weren't just working for yourself, you were part of a national mission. Then something cracked. In April 2021, a post titled "Lying Flat is Justice" went viral on Baidu. Written by a man who had been jobless for 2 years, the post rejected the nonstop grind of modern life, calling it outdated and unnecessary. He argued that real freedom came not from success, but from stepping away. Like Diogenes, who lived simply and slept in the sun. By May, the idea caught fire. Young people across China, burned out and overworked, began to question everything: ambition, effort, even the point of struggling at all. But the government pushed back. Officials called lying flat shameful, poisonous, and a threat to national progress. State media mocked the movement, calling on youth to embrace hardship and keep struggling for China's future. Soon after, censorship followed. The original post vanished. Search results for lying flat were blocked on WeChat. Discussion groups were shut down. Even T-shirts with the phrase were pulled from online stores. Still, the message had already spread, and the silence had already spoken. But lying flat was only the beginning, as economic uncertainty deepened and the dream of stability slipped even further out of reach. A new phrase began to spread. In English it means, "let it rot." A mindset born not from apathy, but exhaustion. Originally used in NBA circles to describe a team giving up on a game for a better draft pick. In China, it's become something much darker. A conscious decision to stop trying when success feels impossible. Why struggle for a house in Shanghai when your salary will never come close to affording it? Why chase marriage, kids, and stability when everything is too expensive to begin with? On platforms like Weibo, the hashtag exploded, generating hundreds of millions of views and spawning countless memes and personal stories. All of it pointed to one thing: resignation. If lying flat was opting out, let it rot is embracing the collapse. It's the emotional surrender that comes when even resistance feels like wasted effort. A cracked pot is no longer worth fixing. A dead pig no longer afraid of boiling water. It's haunting, yes. But has anyone asked why this mindset exists in the first place? Are China's Gen Z truly lost? Or are they simply done playing a game they were never meant to win? The answer might not be as simple as it seems. One of the most immediate and measurable reasons Gen Z is rejecting the system is unemployment. In June 2023, China's youth unemployment rate hit a record high of 21.3%, meaning over 1 in 5 people aged 16 to 24 couldn't find work. To put this into perspective, the U.S. youth unemployment rate in the same month was 7.5%, less than half of China's. And in some cities, the situation is even worse. Graduates from top universities are applying for jobs that barely require high school diplomas, often settling for salaries far below the cost of living. For many, it's not just hard to find a job, it's hard to find one worth having. A system that promises opportunity but delivers rejection only breeds one thing: disengagement. Another powerful force behind this retreat is mental health. According to a report by China Youth Daily, over 40% of Chinese university students report experiencing symptoms of depression or anxiety. Access to mental health care remains limited and stigmatized, especially in rural areas or traditional households. Public discussion around these issues is growing, but it still lags behind the West. Gen Z is more open about discussing emotional well-being, but when their feelings are dismissed as weakness, they retreat even further. Lying flat becomes a form of psychological self-defense, a way to protect themselves from a system that won't acknowledge their pain. Housing prices in major cities like Shanghai and Beijing are among the highest in the world. The dream of owning a home, once a cornerstone of Chinese adulthood, now feels impossible. According to a report by Numbeo, the price-to-income ratio for housing in Shanghai is over 30, meaning it would take decades of savings for a middle-income earner to afford a basic apartment. Add in rising education costs, healthcare expenses, and expectations of caring for aging parents, and many young Chinese feel trapped before they even begin. As one viral post put it, "Why fight so hard for a life I can't even afford?" Traditionally, adulthood in China meant not just finding work, but also marrying and having children, ideally before the age of 30, but this is changing fast. Many in Gen Z are pushing back against these norms, citing financial pressure, emotional burnout, and lack of personal freedom. In 2022, China's marriage rate hit its lowest level since records began, and birth rates have continued to plummet. Women in particular are leading the charge in rejecting traditional family roles, noting the gender imbalance in both expectations and domestic responsibilities. When marriage feels more like a burden than a partnership, and children more like a cost than a joy, it's easy to see why many are saying no thanks. Older generations endured hardship with one hope: things would get better. But for Gen Z, that promise rings hollow. Even with degrees, internships, and perfect grades, many face underemployment or unstable contract work. The iron rice bowl of guaranteed state employment is long gone. Meanwhile, the wealth gap continues to widen. According to Credit Suisse, the richest 1% of Chinese households now own over 30% of the country's wealth. For many young people, it feels like no matter how hard they try, they're running on a treadmill they'll never escape. Finally, this is the first generation raised entirely in the digital age. They're not comparing themselves to their neighbors. They're watching what Gen Z in the US, Korea, Europe, and beyond are doing. They see people in other countries prioritizing happiness over status, and they wonder why they're still being told to suffer in silence. To address this growing crisis, structural reform in labor policy is needed. Strict enforcement of existing labor laws, especially the 44-hour workweek cap, must replace the unchecked normalization of 996 culture. Second, companies need to offer flexible work arrangements, fair wages, and clear boundaries between work and personal life. The Chinese got what they worked so hard for. But Gen Z isn't eager to perpetuate a broken system. Only time will tell where this takes the country.